I know these times won't last, even though they've been tough. Just let them know my people been had enough. Tell them we gon' rise up. We gon' rise up. Tell them we gon' rise up. We gon' rise up. I know these times won't last, even though they've been tough. Just let them know my people been had enough. Tell them we gon' rise up. We gon' rise up. I tell them we gon' rise up. We gon' rise up. Please, Lord, forgive them. They try to hold back and chillin' like they ain't know it was written. Break every chain. Wanna free my people from mental prisons. With your eyes on the sparrow, I know we'll narrow divisions. Hope is the boat to keep us afloat just as you envision. Faith to erase the pain from all of our people slain. Destined for change, actions to back up your spoken name. When they throw dirt on ours, we use it to plant gain. When it rains, we go greater together, no matter the weather. Trust these dark days, gonna get better. Know that love will be the light to guide all our endeavors. And even if the tide should rise, we'll ride it forever. Why? We are mighty, we'll fight for our lives, cause we dying to live. Future is ours, the timing is now. Black and we proud, we saying it loud, we gave it our all. There's so much more to give, we breaking down all the walls. I know these times won't last, even though they've been tough. Just let them know my people been had enough. Tell them we gon' rise up. We gon' rise up. Tell them we gon' rise up. We gon' rise up. I know these times won't last, even though they've been tough. Just let them know my people been had enough. Tell them we gon' rise up. We gon' rise up. I tell them we gon' rise up. We gon' rise up. Never backing down for the cause. Try to put our life on pause, cause we move in the image of God. No matter the hate that's spoken, our spirits remain unbroken. The divine map says you can't count us out. We are the answer. From the youth to the elders, ain't what you can tell us. Style and brilliance of mind, heart as bright as sunshine. Warrior spirits alive, so no, we won't be denied. So vibration is high and the frequency so angelic, like rise up, people come on, rise up, rise up, rise up. Ooh, I know these times won't last, even though they've been tough. Just let them know my people been had enough. Tell them we gon' rise up. We gon' rise up. Tell them we gon' rise up. We gon' rise up. I know these times won't last, even though they've been tough. Just let them know my people been had enough. Tell them we gon' rise up. We gon' rise up. I tell them we gon' rise up. We gon' rise up. Rise up. Rise up. Oh, rise up.
Sir. Rise up, rise up, rise up, family. Great evening to you all.
Yeah.
It's a Monday night, so you already know what time it is. Soundbytes International Radio. Black African consciousness is the claim. Absolutely. Bringing the conversation pertinent to our diasporic landscape to you, and you all over the globe to ensure healing for the Earth's people. As always, forever and always. Of course, I'm Hesir Nefera, and this is
Nefera to my Auntie Ra.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Everything you've for joining us. Those that we already see you in the chat, shout out to our good sister Karen. Peace and power, Allah Day. We appreciate you for joining in the conversation. Make sure if you're joining us this evening, we had a little late start. You know, things we happen, life be life, but it's all good. We out here. We still want to get on the check-in, even if for a little bit, you know, family, because we know what's getting in that hour. But we wanted to come in and still chat with y'all. And so make sure you share the link, share the conversation, join the conversation with us this evening, talking about self-efficacy and how it pertains to our everyday African experience and our human existence, human experience. So make sure you join the conversation and share the link. Again, we are we're live on Facebook and on YouTube, so make sure you follow us and like us on Facebook, Soundbytes INTL Radio. Make sure you also subscribe to us on YouTube at Soundbytes International Radio. We need to get the subscribers up, get more of you in tune with the the YouTube world, so we can make it happen in a special way over there. So also make sure you follow us on Instagram, Soundbytes International Radio, as well as our past episodes in podcast form on Spotify and Apple Podcasts at Soundbytes International Radio, y'all. So that's where we at. So if you want to talk to them, let them know what's going on for the goings on. Shout out to our people in there. Peace, Sister Regina. We see you again, Sister Karen. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in. A lot of day. We appreciate you. Peace and love. You know, we got to set the songs off right. Set the course of the night off right. with a little bit of that rise up action. So we appreciate y'all for joining us. Definitely.
What's going on, Neff? How you doing? Family. Peace and blessings. And thanks everyone for coming in, for receiving from us, family. So we're chatting tonight about self-efficacy, self-agency, and the fact that African people do not need permission to live.
Nah.
We don't need permission to live, family. And we're going to chat it up tonight about that because I think that, remember we talked some time ago about most people just wait and do what they're told. So
peace, brother Naeem. We see you. Thank you for joining in.
The concept of self-efficacy is your ability to process information, devise strategy, and pursue action towards a desired outcome. Self-efficacy and your trust in yourself to know that you can make viable decisions. So if inside of learned helplessness, which is a psychological theory of waiting to be told what to do, right? Learned helplessness is a manifestation of that.
Right.
And that is a contradiction of self-efficacy and self-agency. So we don't need permission to live. If we're waiting for someone to tell us what to do, and we don't have the faculties for self-agency, where does that leave us in terms of our trek to sovereignty?
Right.
So I think that our people have waited for permission for somebody to say, yeah, you go ahead. You go.
Right.
You go. You go.
My seats at the tables and things of that nature.
Yeah, because we listen a lot. Yeah. So, that's kind of like a little bit of an explanation around the whole self-efficacy, self-agency piece. Because I believe we use these things and we say these things in our spaces, and I hear it all the time and things like that, but it's not really showing up in our daily actions, though. It's not really showing up in our behaviors. I think we constantly wait for people to give us permission. And I really want to impress upon us that we not. Like, you've already had the breath of life. The divine already centered you and rooted you on a trajectory. What happens is, after so much exposure to madness and dysfunction, disharmony, we begin to lose our connection to self-agency, centeredness, and self-efficacy. So, African, we don't need permission to live. That means we don't owe nobody anything. We don't have to keep people comfortable around our living. We don't have to wait for them to give us permission to come. Well, you guys come on and have a seat. We want you guys to be a part of us and a part of our things that we have going on. And it also has to do with the fact that, we have to create our own ways of being. We have had opportunities across our landscape from our scholars, from our historical recap of knowing what our lives used to be like. Today, we're not the people that we once were. So we have to have self-agency as a tool, self-efficacy as a tool to be able to awaken our life force, stand for our best quality of life along that trek to sovereignty in action while we create our own cultural experience and strategy. It's not really a lot. I mean, it sounds like a little bit of a, you know what it is? It's steps. See, it's project management. That's what it is, family. Me, I'm project management guru. It is the steps in between. Workforce development professional, right? Your learning and development professional. Those are your pieces in between. So you need one step, one brick to lay a foundation for another brick to lay a foundation for another brick. And when there are holes in your wall, when bricks are missing in your wall, and intentionally these things are happening in our society where there are bricks, holes in our wall, it inhibits our forward trajectory. So we're here to tell you today, family, you don't need permission to live.
Right. I think what ties into that is that, we've been so long cultivated, especially within these past few generations, around being told who we are, told what we need to be, told what we need to do in order to operate and function within this particular matrix. And we tend to lose sight. We talk about this a lot on the show, that we tend to lose sight of what framework or who is the architect, so to speak, around what it means to be an activated African. What does it mean to be a Black person? What does it mean to be American? What does it mean to be this, and that? And not realizing that this is by a biased definition of whoever's curating the space the most, right? And who's ever utilizing the minions of those within the space that are of like mind or of like being, or so to speak, or like look. to help curate that space, right? Because it takes strength in numbers. And one of those things that we battled with, contended with for a really long time, over the past, you can say the course, 60, 70 years or so ish. We were talking about really like, after slavery and whatnot, and kind of being in this land, and kind of we left to figure things out, so to speak. For those in this land particularly, I'm not just speaking diasporically, but it's in this land particularly, in our American history story,
right?
Left to kind of figure things out, and figure things out from a space of not knowing, right? And making do what was available in our hand, because we have always been a resourceful people, making do with what's available to us in our hand, whether it's the inventions during the times of enslavement. That unfortunately, when someone else can create the laws and create the patents, they can take that bit of ingenuity away from you, as far as the physicality of it and tactical application. But nevertheless, we still apply these things, right? But over time, within that kind of beating down of ideas and beating down of how we should execute who we are in a regular human space, we get right what's allowable in this particular framework, this dome, this matrix, this Truman show of a matrix that we're living under. We've grown to have a condition of being sidetracked from who we are, and sidetracked from what matters, sidetracked from who's the point, and you're the point, right? We are the mattering point, and as history's shown us, we are the pinnacle point for a lot of world shifting and game changing, right? And that's clear and evident in cultures across the globe. So when we talk about your self-efficacy and self-agency, how are we applying that in our everyday space, understanding who we are in our identity, right? Kujichagulia, like how are we identifying and naming ourselves and owning our identity, things of that nature. Kwanzaa's coming up pretty soon, a couple months from now, so we love getting into those tenets of the Nguzo Saba. But that identity, right? How are we identifying with ourselves in our being as African? What does that mean? Are we African first, or human first? Like, what does that mean all encompassing in your everyday life? How does that show up in everything? Do you show up at work African? Do you show up on the basketball court African? Do you show up in the supermarket African? Do you show up at the party African? Do you show up every day African? Do you show up just everyday African? Vibrating African. What does that look like for you? Are you talking about Africans the first time in your life in a positive light because you've been conditioned into the matrix that's let you know that African is bad, that Haitian is bad, that Caribbean is bad, that this you this and that? Who's the one holding these titles? Who's the one curating the spaces that has you falling into the pit of not loving yourself? So who told you you're not beautiful? Who told you not to love yourself? Who told you not to love your nose and your eyebrows and your lips and all that stuff? Who told you that? You gotta be. The self-agency part is understanding that that information is coming from an unreliable, uninformed source that has no clue who you are, right? And it's still to this day constantly trying to biologically pick apart and clinically pick apart who you are from a historical standpoint. Even standing in front of you, even in calling you friend or coworker, they're still trying to figure it out, even if it's subconscious. There are those that try to break it down specifically as a science, and there are those that it's just a subconscious behavior to try to figure you out, try to pick your brain, try to see where ideas are from, and then see if they can apply it somewhere else and get the gold from it, right? So self-agency is having us hold on to those pieces of who we are, and own them, every bit of it, and apply it accordingly in our lives, so people know who the fuck you are when you stand in that space. Okay, build that stock up in Africa. Whatever room you walk into, people know who you are. Whatever space or job or gig you step into, people know where your leadership qualities lie, how that can be best delegated, and how you can work together as a team, right? We talk about the tenet of like the African proverb. You want to go far. You want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, go together. And you can go fast, but how fast? Where you going fast to where? Do you know where you're going? Do you know how long a trajectory lasts? Do you know what the legacy is going to be at the end of the day? Because that gets to get curated within the working space of your team and your village or your people. So how are you curating community? How are you curating village? How are you curating your team? How are you curating family? What does that look like? What does that mean to you? Who are your friends? Who are the people in your space? Because who's in your space matters to how your brain operates and how your energy resonates wherever you go, right? So you want to keep in mind these particular things. What you want to say? Yeah, I'm gonna check in because I said to you before, when you're in this society right here, you have to even believe that your mind is playing tricks on you, right? Because remember, we came out of the womb
And I always give you this analogy so that it will help you understand the synthesis of it all. A 5-year-old in the world for 5 years, only functioning basically on stimulation. 90% of what they do is based on stimulation and their natural experience in the environment with frequency and energy, right? From baby, frequency and energy, smell, mom smell, dad smell, familiar, the blanket, right? The I'm hungry, right? Babies are experiencing this. So this developmental space of up to 5 years. And then the black doll, white doll experiment, you have this child who says the black doll is a bad doll. So I'm often talking about that film of anti-blackness that's in this space, and everybody pretends that it's not there, including other African people, contain this anti-blackness. Oh, no, it's not there. And because everybody wants to make people who are having the white culture experience and everybody else feel comfortable. Because people who are having the white culture experience already expressed to you that they don't like for you to talk about advocacy and sovereignty for yourself and you running your own show. They don't like for you to do that. So that makes them uncomfortable when you start talking about history and bad things like slavery and police brutality and, the unfair circumstances of this living condition where some people get way more than they deserve or have earned unmeritocratically. They don't want you to talk about things like that because all those things are part of your anti-black experience. But that 5-year-old already experiences these things. Watching the television shows, the commercials, and the kids. When you hear these little children singing and dancing, all these commercials and stuff, little black kids don't generally speak that way. They don't generally sing that way. So when you start to create these lines of association, because the mind creates association. So this child at 5 years old already knows the black doll to be the bad doll. Already knows the white doll to be the kind doll, the happy doll, and wants to play with that doll. The ugly doll is the black doll. The bad doll, the criminal doll, the doll you don't want to play with is the black doll. This is the birth and compiling of self-hatred, okay? That literally comes out of our society. So this is why you have to even believe that your mom may be playing tricks on you. Because if you start at 5 years old already beginning self-hatred, what happens to you when you're 40? So from what prism do you make decisions? Right. From what landscape do you access your creative ability? Your African center, where is it? Because it's been molded and created, and that means continental Africans who've been colonized, right? That means Africans who've been oppressed in this country, enslaved Africans and the children, descendants of the enslaved Africans, right? So what is your information center? I'm not talking about when you went to try to collapse all the madness with Kwanzaa and African clothes and learning some African words.
Those are salves to what you think that means.
Yeah, that's the fake stuff, right? I mean, it's not fake. They're valid. Excuse me.
It's fake if you're not it's fake if you're not putting it's fake if you're not putting the energy into it that it actually makes it matter. Other than that, it becomes a costume. Sorry.
Right, a costume. It's not a costume, and there's so much in our society today that makes an African who has a right to live. It makes them become a caricature of themselves. See, this is why I've opted out of so many different spaces and places and doing certain types of things and using certain mechanisms to gain attention and access. Because I refuse to make myself a caricature because I have a right to life. If I was to become a comedian or if I was to decide to do comedy, I'm still a person. But see, in this society, African people don't really have personage. They're only pieces of yourself that you get to actualize. And what type of psychosis develops in individuals trying to make decisions for their greatest possibility. And you think that you're I talk to people all the time, I swear up and down, I don't care what education, level, experience, or what have you, who believe that they're making rational and logical decisions. Within madness, where it has been normalized, psychotic behavior has been normalized. Behavior that is not even fitting for anyone. There should be a national circumstance around the fact that African people are not defending themselves. Because when there's harm being done to you, there is a natural psychological response to danger. There should be behaviors and actions that immediately show up to stop harm from coming to yourself and your community.
Right.
The fact that we've normalized and we have been cultured and our behavior has been shaped in such a way that makes us make sense of harm. That makes us make sense of rationalizing. It's like a domestic violence relationship. So you get a slap in the face of punching a black eye today, and then tomorrow we'll give you, $300 stimulus checks.
Right.
We'll put Beyonce up there on TV and have her do her thing and then bring the WAP out and have them they drop it like it's hot. And then, we'll do a whole bunch of bells and whistles and everybody's fine. And then here he comes Drunk Home again. And now here comes the beatings again. Right? So we go back and forth with it. And then we can compound this with 200 years of behavior.
Peace and power, Chief Elder John Henry. We receive. Thank you so much for joining in the conversation. We received those positive energies and blessings from you. Yes, please share the conversation. Please join in the conversation. We're talking about self-efficacy and our African state, our human experience, how we're operating within that, how we're utilizing that, how we're understanding that, what that means for us, and how we move forward within that. Sorry, go ahead.
And our building of our self and our sovereignty.
Thank you so much, Sister Karen. We appreciate that donation. Thank you so much.
I realize that people as a community, we actually are standing in a space where we're not sure about us having our own space. Let me tell you something. African people, there's a maintenancing conversation. Let me be very clear. Wherever you heard it, wherever it's going on, please be sure to consistently remind our community. Mm-hmm. I'm going to challenge the fact that there's a maintenance conversation because you are a living being today and you have certain needs. So we must maintenance you as a faculty, right? I also believe in certain types of self-discipline. So that you can do without meals. It's a necessity for you to learn how to condition your body, your physical. You have a body; it has certain faculties, and your mind can condition your body and the responses that it has to the environment, so that you can build up a certain fortification around your being, so that your being doesn't get you into trouble, right? Because your body and your desires and your feelings and your chemical responses to certain things will has been getting African people into trouble.
Lots of trouble.
Right. So I'm going to tell you that I see you, African, Sawubona, and the divine in me honors and respects the divine in you. So I'm going to create protection for you. And in that protection is giving you good information. Right. And giving you faculties so that you can employ to support yourself. African people say, we're going to get business and we're going to get our economic development. And that's all well and good for the maintenance conversation.
Yeah, that's one piece.
But African people are the movers of our economy. Yet we have no power. There is still no stock in African. People still don't want to be black. They like parts of blackness. They like our rhythm. They like the food. They like our clothes. They like our men. They like our lips. They like our hips. They like our, flexibility dances with our hair. They like to do the dances. They like our mannerisms. They even pretend our mannerisms. Men and women, they all want to pretend African women's mannerisms, right?
Over in Japan, they over there making afros out of themselves.
I promise you that, let me tell you what, they have afros in Japan.
There's Jamaican bashments.
African wigs. Bashments.
They have bashment parties in Japan.
It's
a big thing.
It is. And they are extremely racist and hateful towards African people, period.
Make it make sense.
But they want those pieces of you. And if you're not careful, you begin to function inside of the areas that give you respite from pain. Right. Because that's what's happened. You don't want to say it that way. Let me say it again. We begin to contortion ourselves and build ourselves as costumes and caricatures inside of a society that wants only certain pieces of ourselves so that we can have freedom from pain. Because we have not controlled our faculties as a human. We have not learned to build fortification around our inner being and to control our faculties so that we are not tripped up in vulnerable spaces and allowed to be manipulated. So that we'll do something and betray our self and soul and our ancestors in an effort to gain freedom from pain.
Absolutely. We continually tied to the group dynamic and the power of that. Unfortunately, not our own group, right? We're tied to the conditioning of that anti-blackness, that anti-Africanness, that hatred. That's become epigenetic, right? Because it's been instilled enough, and it's like if you be with them, then you won't get any of these trinkets. But if you come along with us, you get these things. You won't feel that pain anymore because there's always a response to pain, right? You don't want no one wants to feel pain anymore, right? Like so,
rejection is pain.
If you're experiencing ongoing trauma, you hate the pain, you hate that it's constantly being done to you, and there's an opportunity to leave, an opportunity for relief. Then you're good. Then more often than not, you're going to take it. If you don't see the other side of where that's coming from, you'll be incentivized to take it, right? No matter where it's coming from. Despite the idea that little personal hurt, you feel like if you can push it down of like, well, I betrayed my people. Will I betray my family? Well, I sold them out,
Mm-hmm.
but I got this money, or I got this car, or I got this nice job, or I get to play golf with the boss, or I get to have this big house, or I get to go to these galas and parties and big mansions, or I get to be on TV. All these things that are these temporary trinkets, because if you take them all away, what's left is still you. What's left is still that trauma is going to come back now. If all that dropped off of you right in this instant, if you would have it now and it dropped off of you this instant, what will be left but you and your Africanness and whatever the pain is that you have not resolved, because you've not chosen to stand in your own self agency of who you are and standing in your particular being, because someone else told you about you. Mm-hmm. Had no clue who you are, right? And we were constantly being fed that throughout history, because again it becomes epigenetic, meaning that and science recently proved it, but you know what you know if you understand history and understand how to read your lineage, is that the trauma becomes encoded in your DNA over time. We're still operating in the residual traumas of our ancestors. We're still operating residual traumas of those that were enslaved, those that were here or have that lineage that were enslaved and brought here. Right, we're still operating out of those particular traumas and pains. A lot of us that still don't know who we are. We have African ancestry out here who's operating by African folks, which is beautiful, right? We just did our African ancestry beginning of the summer. I think it was June. And we found out some crucial pieces who are to help us take the next steps in digging deeper into our ancestry
and the nature of our people,
and nature of our people and what makes sense to us now. Because what makes sense to us now, whatever we do, regardless of how much we rejected trauma, right? Regardless of how much we may be in space of rejecting our people, I'm not those type of black people, I'm not this and that, or I don't know, I'm really confused about what works with them and why I'm doing these things. You get a better understanding when you're able to walk down that path and see, oh, this comes from this particular tribe. The Masa tribe is like in Cameroon. Chad is where this particular thing, it leads up to how I operate in the world. My particular energy or essence or creativity or whatever it is, right? When you take those steps and do that due diligence and learning yourself, know thyself, African know thyself and heal thyself, you get to understand better who you are, and you get to stand firmer in who you are when you're walking in the everyday space. So all this other stuff actually won't even matter to you.
I just want to know how you mechanize who you are, because we're here for the tools, we're here for the action tools, we're here for to put it in play. How do you mechanize it? Who you are. It's not about just walking around with pride. Right. It's not about just walking around in pride and just walking around feeling good about yourself, because that's a part of it. But that's still someone is guiding that. Someone is guiding your trajectory that says, you know what? You just feel good, right? But what about your duty to your community? See, it's not really about you just feeling good. Yes, put on your mask first. Get your healing, build up a certain degree of resistance, learn to formulate, your faculty and fortify your faculty so that you're not victim of and weakened and made vulnerable due to circumstances, right? Don't do certain behaviors. Don't engage in certain types of communication, certain types of company, certain types of activities, all of these things that make you weaker in your physical experience until you have learned to fortify yourself from temptation. When you can do at all costs the right thing when nobody is looking, when there's nothing to gain. That's only one aspect of self-mastery. The next part of you is your duty to your community. So yeah, we can say economic power. Let's wield our economic power as a short-term maintenance conversation. Oh, African people need jobs. If African people have economic businesses and this and that, and they also have jobs, you know what they do? They also don't have power. And power. You're still in these mechanisms operating within a system where you are not at the table, where you don't get to make decisions with self-agency that is in your best interest. You don't get to say, this is what I want my children taught in school. Right? Why? Because everybody is trying to get freedom from pain by creating themselves a better seat in the master's house. They want to have access to the things that the master has. They want to be very good at assimilating. We're going to have all of these black women, and we're going to carbon copy her 5,000 times in this arena, make every black woman in here look like Barbie dolls. Yeah, because I've been to events, and it's the same look with a different outfit. It's like mannequins. You walk in the department store. Black women. Short, tall, thick, skinny, whatever. All of them with the same frequency, same energy, same look that they're manipulating due to their inability to understand that 83% of all communication is nonverbal.
Right.
So when you say that you have power in African, that you're strong in your African concept and you're committed to it, tell it to your face. Because your physical expression and what you value is present on your face. And African pride and your being in yourself is not showing up for you. You're willing to be incentivized and minimize your stuff and put somebody else's stuff up front because you feel like that's going to get you by. But you know who's watching you? The babies. Mm-hmm. And they see you, the 5-year-old little girl who already hates herself because she's the black doll, white doll experiment. And she's watching mommy and auntie and cousin and everybody pretend those people images. She continues to grow up knowing that this is what she has to do to contortion herself so that she can be free from pain. Right. Because this is what's acceptable. Right?
And it can go a few ways because it could be like they'll look at that like either I don't want to grow up being like you, or I'm gonna grow up being like you and you just created more of the same, or again, I don't want to grow up being like you, but I'm gonna be another way that works for me within the matrix, but I don't want to be like you. Or it could be in a hope. I don't want to be in that way. I want to be a better version of what African means, or whatever the case may be. It can go a few ways if the path is chosen and if the information is made available. But it starts with us always. It starts with us as the elders. It starts with us as the brothers, the sisters, the fathers, the aunts, the mothers, aunts, uncles, everyone that's walked the walk in some fashion. Even if you didn't go all the way, if you learn a little something, you can impart it on the youth, so they can hopefully provide a better future than what we have available to them now. We can only give grace at a certain point with what we have available. We still got to do the work. There's still work to be done, and there's still a chance as long as these youth are alive. There's still a chance as long as we're alive to impart on them what they need to know to carry the baton on to the next level and hopefully get us to where we get to be. Right? And it's not even about just the thing of like, well, we just want to be respected in this. No, we want to create our agency and be who we are, fully functional and animated African, standing tall, no matter who is in the space, right? Because other cultures can get to do the same. Yes, Asian cultures get to be Asian. They get to operate their stores and in our communities. They get to take our money, right? And other cultures get to do the same thing. You know, East Indian, it could be Spanish, it could be whatever the case may be. There's a strong semblance of cultural understanding in different groups, other than the African known on this U.S. soil, right? And even then, we hear the story. We're hearing more and more of the stories of our people in the continent that have adopted that same mentality that's been westernized and is poisoning the continent slowly but surely. There's definitely root there in being with the people, right? There's going to be a different energy to be in the land, be with the motherland, be with the people. But we can't deny that there's still, with the reality that the westernized energy, the colonized energy that has still seeped in, right? That's still part of the battle, right? Is to peel those pieces away and really get to where we need to be. So there's a lot of work to be done, and the challenge we have ahead of us is how willing are we to do it, knowing that you've gone comfortable with the South, gone comfortable with the rewards and the incentives and everything that has been offered. It's like, well, I can just do this until I die and just do whatever. Well, it's better than finding the truth and going in the funky muck to find some truth that I don't know how long it's ever going to take, and I just might die in this. You might just die in the fight. But knowing that you're fighting for something that you believe in, to gain ownership of yourself, that's something that no one can take away from you, right? It doesn't have to be a struggle, right? It doesn't have to be necessarily this big muck and funky fight. We don't operate within that mucky fight. We understand it exists, but we don't have to operate. You have to also understand choice, understand what you have available to you to make it a better experience, and a holistic experience, and a balanced experience.
Be ready, but be ready. But be ready, because there's things in the space.
You have to know everything that's in the space that you're dealing with.
There's things in the space, and there are groups of people. There are facets in this strategy. This is the thing that gets me right here, is that we're not sitting in the space of strategy. We're sitting in the space of escapism. We keep trying to positive ourselves out of this mess that we're in. We don't even, so many of us don't really, and this is what I say, and it's not an insult, it's a call out. Learning how to think is a skill. It's not natural, right? In this environment that we're in, because we're not trained to think. We're trained to put a round peg in a round hole. Everything about the way that we are educated and socialized from birth is so that we can fuel the system. It's not that we can stand in the front of the room and run it. Because whenever you see someone that is of African descent in the front of the room, they had to be given the right hand of fellowship from the round table. Period. And you see how they work. You see the movers and shakers in these spaces and places. There's not a huge, they don't allow the imagery of an entire enormous group of powerful Africans doing African type stuff. So my issue with that is, what is your assessment of what you're creating, even with your own, okay, I'm out of pain, I put myself in a better situation. What are you doing in terms of the entire landscape of African people? What are you doing for that? Because if you're not processing the fact that there's a need for protection, then you're not even in the game yet. You're a liability. Your progress and your toxic positivity is actually a hindrance to the community. Because what we really need is we need thinkers who know how to think, who know how to strategize, so that there is a collective movement. There shouldn't need to be a leader, because every African has the capacity to lead a space based on Bandora's modeling behavioral theories. Our girlfriend Karen is out there. She said, "Listen, oh yes, and just a quick reminder, they're out there with this with the Cash App. Listen, if you feel so inspired and there's value that you found here, and there's an exchange that you'd like to make, feel free to make a contribution to Soundbytes International Radio. The Cash App is down there. It's an ask. If you so choose, it's fine. If not, that's fine too. Send the energy. Continue to be with us. Continue to have the conversation. Continue to build out. That's your own personal compass, and we leave it at that. So I thank you, our sister Karen, for putting it out there, and also for making the contribution. Thank you. The contribution opportunity and the exchange, energy exchange, is always out there. But it's not a have to. It's a get to. It's a blessing, and to make the exchange and to see the environment that also exchanges with you. Yes. Because this is the family go to meeting, and the energy here is so that we are fortified in having a certain type of strategic conversation to unlock certain parts of our inner being that have been left dormant. To see and make dead bones rise is what it's called, right? To see and rise, make dead bones rise. So there's a sense of dormancy that lies in our people. This is not about, people who are having a white cultural experience would like to call and narrate your experience and start to categorize, well, they're being separatists, or they're being black nationalists, or they're being this, or they're being that. That is none of their business, and it's not for you. If you process and you know how to think, then it's not for you to engage in that conversation, because every people supports themselves and puts their masks and takes care of their own care themselves. Nobody regulates anybody else's space. And when it is happening, the people that are being regulated do not get anything good out of it. They're being oppressed. Because how can you not be of me and know what's good for me? How can your goals and aspirations be in opposition to my survival, but you're going to do something good for me? Why? Why would that benefit you? That doesn't make basic kindergarten level mathematical sense. It doesn't. It doesn't. And I know that a lot of us run away from this because we've never been charged with responsibility. And being dutiful to your people is a responsibility. It means that you have to work on yourself and master yourself, master your own self-agency, master your own self-efficacy, and ignite your duty and commit to it. That's what it means. It means that it's not about shaking your tail feather, because while you shaking your tail feather, folks out here lining up their situation. They lining up their situation. I told you, African, 3 years ago, you're not ready for what these folks hitting this corner with for us. Nope. I told you. I'm reading the right. Nope. I'm like, damn, I'm trying to get people on board, trying to get people to support, trying to get things moving, to get some fortification going on around here. And everybody wants to be in competition for crumbs, for foolishness, for something that is so inconsequential, is not even on the map at all. The point is, there's power where their people are. So yes, people turn to people, because as African people, it is of our nature to lean into each other. It is of our nature to be fortified with the frequency of moving energy as a collective unit. That is a powerful thing for African people. That's our culture. That's what belongs to us, period. So when I'm talking about what African people ain't doing and how they're not showing up, that's a call out. Because that means that you are behaving in a way that is unnatural to your natural nature. That means that you have been exposed to dysfunction for so long that you've normalized the fact that you're willing to turn your back on your brothers and sisters. You've normalized that. That's dysfunctional because you don't turn your back on your family. And just because they're not blood relative, although there's one blood in the African community, right? We can all talk about our sets. You know, I got a clip quote over here from Malcolm X. He said, where is it? He said, whether you're a Christian or brother Kyle, give thanks, our brother Kyle. He's not in with us tonight, but he probably will catch the replay. He said, no matter what you call yourself, Moors, Hebrews, Israelites, Nubians, Aborigines, Black and African American, to white supremacy, racism, and injustice, you're melanated, and that's how racism precedes us. Malcolm X says, whether you are a Christian or a Muslim or a nationalist, we are all have the same problem. They don't hang you because you're a Baptist. They hang you because you're Black. They don't attack you because I'm a Muslim. They don't attack me because I'm a Muslim. They attack me because I'm Black. They attack all of us for the same reason. All of us catch hell from the same enemy. We're all in the same bag, in the same boat. We suffer political oppression, economic exploitation, and social degradation, all of them from the same enemy.
Exactly.
Give thanks to the ancestor. May we be worthy. So, you know, and I've said this to you, so I synthesize this and I say to you, you know, you're in the front, I'm in the back, we still in the other. What's good? Like, so my point for African people, I want our highest possibility. African Libra, my Atian is an air sign. It's right. It's here. One of the zodiacs that's not a inanimate object, and is inanimate object. I'm saying this to say, I'm trying to center us in the highest possibility for African centeredness, for our highest possibility of self-governance, for our highest possibility to when Africans rule the world, right? When we put things in order. I'm not talking about tribal wars. I'm not talking about, you know, our little back home and at home, you know, knit-nats and this-that's, because we're also in the 2021. And if left to our own devices, we would work out our circumstances. We would have our own governments. We would work out our own politics. We would have our own resource distribution, right? We would have all of these things. All of these things will be our responsibility. They will be our responsibility to educate our children, to heal our community, to make sure we have clean water, to make sure we produce enough food to feed everyone, to make sure everyone is trained up and has a duty and a contribution to make to the community, to make sure that everyone feels valued. That will be our job. It will be our job to develop our technology. It will be our job to make sure that the technology that we do create is in harmony with with nature. That would be our job to do. It wouldn't be waiting for someone else to tell us what to do. Because in our community, we know we often do. We're all standing around waiting to see who's going to do the job that anybody could have done. And then what we do is we go and we duplicate what our sister Karen said is mirroring, which is called Van Doren's modeling behavioral theory, is when you understand the science. I use it all the time. I just hope that people copy or mirror what's important and not the aesthetic.
Which
and they
happens
so often,
mostly. And
99.9% of the time, they take the low-hanging fruit every time. I've only met 2 people in my entire lifetime. And as I told you guys this year, give thanks to the ancestors. I made 45 revolutions around the sun. 2 people in my entire lifetime that actually took the work and ran past the low-hanging fruit. They just said, you know what, I'm going to take this little bit, I'm going to run with that. Everybody else take the low-hanging fruit and they step. And you know what? They always come back. And you know what? The door is no longer open. I'm giving it
not the
you
aesthetic.
have this the whole cake. Take the whole cake. You know what they do? They stick their finger and take a little cream. That tastes good and run.
She's just waiting because she looks. She's waiting because she looks this way. She's waiting because she dressed this way. She's just waiting because her hair looks this way. She's
she talk like that.
That's the conversation that's clearly happening because we see these people regurgitated in space, right? This is assessment. We see them, and this is what happens: is that it's the pieces that actually are non-consequential are being replicated in the space, but not the energy, not the essence, not the understanding, not the cognitive computations and spiritual and emotional connectivity. None of that's being transplanted.
None of it.
Just the look of it, right? The outside of it. Like, the apple core where the seed lies, or it used to lie. The seed lies in the apple core. No one wants that. They want to peel the skin off the apple and take the skin off. The apple and the seed is still there. The seed is going to keep making things happen. That's going to make more apples and create more.
Duplicate more apples.
Duplicate more of that
grow
energy
more apples
for healing. That's not there.
We want to grow more apples.
Skin. This skin means an apple. It's reddish. That means an apple. I got a granny. I got a granny apple. I got a Granny Smith. I got a honey crisp life. No, you don't. You have skin. Get your life together.
But that's you know what that is? That is also learned behavior. That's a learned helplessness.
It is.
It's a learned behavior
because you don't know what to synthesize and how to be discerning around what information you're taking away.
And what's
right
good.
For us, like when it comes to religion, like I don't subscribe to any one particular religion. Recently, picked up Buddhism, but my family was like Christian Baptist, but baptized Catholic. But all that actually doesn't even matter to me of those specific sects of spiritual, I guess the word is journey, what have you. What it was at the end of the day for me, how do I become a better human being? Right? How am I a better human being to my fellow person, to my fellow man, to my brother, to my sister, to my wife, to those people around me? How am I in everyday activation of being a better version of myself than I was yesterday? Mm-hmm. What are the pieces from these things I can take away, and what can I leave behind? Like you said, chew up the fat, spit out the bone.
Spit out the bone.
What am I taking in as the reinforcement and the actual intellectual understanding and spiritual elevation that's going to help me get to my next level versus taking it all the muck and getting confused by it and putting out the wrong energy. Mm-hmm. Putting out the coveting and putting out you have this many wives and putting out all the other weird stuff that people subscribe to that doesn't help them. Right? How are you computing what you're receiving in the space of what's in the space? What are you taking from it to build your self-efficacy and self-agency? Going back to what the discussion.
Because the whole cake is available to you. The whole cake.
They want apples, Karen. They want apples.
They want apples. I don't know what it is. Everybody has this obsession for apples.
They want the skin of the apple, not the core.
And you know what? And that's a call out. That's another call out. I'm gonna stretch you. I'm gonna call you forward. And as a community of people, we the ones who have the work to do. We're the ones. So you can cut corners all you want to. It's us who's suffering from the cutting of corners.
We're suffering from it. Nobody wins when the family feuds.
You might want to address your pain points so that you can choose out of your pain points, right? So you can stop trying to find salve for your pain points. African, you have a right to live. No one can regulate your right to live with a quality of life fitting a human. An African. No one can encroach upon that. You've lived in the pressure cooker of madness and insanity for so long that you feel like this is your only circumstance. It is not. How do you mechanize being a fully functional and animated African? You are dutiful and committed to making sure you grow more apples so that you start to fortify with truth and light. Right? So that we are in a maintenance conversation, but there is a stop point for this maintenance. Because African people get to monitor and govern themselves. People who are having a white cultural experience and whatever their God complex is and the white man's burden and whatever they got going on, that's their business. It is. But they have been fighting against their history. And while they're fighting against their history and rebranding themselves, because whiteness is a culture and it has a brand, a global brand that they've sold to the world, when you change your frequency, the world will respond differently around you. And that's not what the fight will. Be prepared to fight. I'm just saying, because we know white folks throw tantrums, period. Let's not be mistaken about that. But by the same token, you won't necessarily be fighting for your life. You'll be fighting because you're fighting an enemy who's trying to take your life. Other than that, you've already designed your self-governance. You've designed and fortified your community and protected your community and re-educated and reignited fully functional animated Africans. You've already done that. So when you lock arms and you stand and you say, hey, you know what, guys? We're not going to have all that rambunction. Y'all can take that over there and be prepared to handle your business if need be. That's how that goes. But you won't have to. Because when you change your frequency everything around you will change the way it responds. The issue is we just take all the little trinkets from everywhere. Folks just stick whatever to and fro, wherever the wind may go. And that's us. Because everybody is trying to find a club to belong to. Everybody's trying to get free from pain, free from the looming anti-blackness also represents rejection. And rejection is painful. Rejection is hurtful. You know, and I forgot we was listening to a video said, what was the video? The video what sister was saying? And I thought it was you said it was the glasses. And I said, is that Queen Latifah?
Oh, that was Tiana Taylor.
Tiana Taylor. What she was saying.
Tiana Taylor, yeah. She was talking about we have no safe space to be who we
have no
are.
safe space to be.
We have no safe space to create. Because she made her Tiana Taylor, for those who know, was a singer. She's a singer. She recently retired because she felt like she wasn't being properly respected and valued in the music industry, which is many of our black creatives. But anyway, she created a production company that's run by women, her included, of course, and it was talking about this idea of this reality that we don't have safe places to be, we don't have safe spaces to create, we don't have safe spaces to be in our own essence and our own self-agency wherever we go. Even when we've talked about this numerous times on Soundbytes, when you talk about going for places to heal, even when we try to create healing spaces, there's always a disruptor more often than not, because someone can't stand to be in their own thoughts of their Africanness, but they have to bring white-centered consciousness along to feel like they're in a balanced space in the world.
Every time.
Not being too African to lose their job or whatever the case may be. So you're bringing work home or bringing that whatever that is back home to where you are, and now you have no safe space to be where you are anywhere, and now you just encroach on other people's safe space. You know what I mean?
And other people's development.
You know, we can't live, eat, or drink or sleep in our own being without it being scrutinized or criticized or pushed to the side or devalued or taken away. Right, this is our daily living experience now. No matter what rung you're on, whether you are a celebrity or whether you're destitute on the street, that's part of the reality. It may look different at different levels, but it's still part of the reality. Right, Jay-Z can get his wealth taken away tomorrow if he takes too many steps to the left.
They put it right next to the cell where they had Bill Cosby at.
Will Smith can be in enough space with social media and having his marriage exploited and his relationship with this African woman and all these different pieces in his celebrity tear him down internally until depression gets a hold of him and we lose, God forbid, but
that's how it always happens,
right?
Because money can't buy you happiness,
right? It can buy you things that can make you think you're happy. It can't fill you. It's only temporary, because once those things go away, you're not happy anymore. Because happiness has to be created from within. And if you're not safe and feeling safe or at peace in the spaces that you're in, you will be very challenged in creating happiness for yourself, unless you really are staunch and true in your will to say, I'm choosing this now, and nothing will shake that, because it will be a battle in the space. Our brother Ahmad the poet said, the righteous are the villains in an evil world. And I believe that's so true, because we've been enculturated into this world that has this very wicked and evil foundation in the way it's shaped and curated on a daily basis, and disguising this idea of humanity, disguising this idea of one people when it's convenient to say, in the face of scrutiny, of you're harming black people, you're harming Africans, you're harming people of color. Well, no, this is one race, we're all one people. Don't let the media do what tear us apart. But you're letting the media tear us apart, and you're also part of the media. And you're also feeding the propaganda. You're also feeding into the symptoms of a system that does not want the African to rise up in the face of trying to battle back, when the African actually just wants to be at free peace.
You know, white male patriarchal, right? Dichotomous thinking is about win-lose.
Somebody has to lose.
There's no cohabitating.
No win-win.
Every people on the planet try cohabitating, try harmony, except for these folks. These folks, their primary function from day one was to take over somebody, take somebody else's stuff, and that's an issue that they have to deal with. But again, 13% of the world population has enough financial backing if they want to, instead of Bezos and who's the other one? Elon Musk. Elon Musk out here piddling, paddling, and trying to see who got the what is it with Django, who has the baddest Mandingo warrior. Right. Say, let me see, my man has got it. No, your man has got it. My man has got it. I'm gonna put a little something on it, make the game interesting. So they playing this game. Who got the strongest mandingo? Whatever their vehicle is, Elon Musk's vehicle, and Jeff Bezos his vehicle, and and Zuckerberg's his vehicle. I was listening to WBAI the other day. They said 745 or 735 billionaires in the world. And when I say billionaires, hundreds of billions of dollars. So they've created a club where they get to manipulate the effects of the game and make sure they sit. This is what they do: sit people out. They got all the pawns in the game, right? Monopoly board. They buy up all of the stuff, right? This is what's happening with the Matrix. And all you're doing is you just in there, just moving around, just drop it like it's hot, do the new dance, buy the new clothes, something that look like make you like a clown walking the streets, but you buy it and wear it anyway, right? Because you're not even thinking basic common sense. This actually does not look appealing for my body type. Let me not wear this, or let me not wear this like this. Like this is what's happening with Jeff Bezos and these upper echelon people that are moving the pieces on the board that affect your life every day as an African. That get to impress upon you who poisoned African people, who made African people sick. African, you have the right to life. You don't need permission. Who poisoned African people? Who are miseducating African people? Who decided that an appropriate education for an African is to teach him how to put a round peg into a round hole, not how to run the government? No, you don't even. Most of us, we get into these spaces and places, and I would even say, even for myself, I have to do so much research. I've had to do so many back end and dig around and try to meet people and have conversations because there's a lack of exposure in certain spaces. Because unless you meet the power, you get the right hand of approval, you won't get access to certain spaces to be able to do certain things. Right? And because we're a community of people and we don't have African-centered consciousness, we're just trying to, escape pain for ourselves and get some self-worth because anti-blackness and rejection hurts. So we want to get positioned in the spaces and places so that we can develop some artificial self-worth. So we're not really opening the doors for other types of conversations. What we do is we continue to make the masses comfortable by continuing to create more of the same. African, you have a right to life and you don't need permission. But you don't have self-efficacy and you don't have self-mastery and self-agency, because if you did, you wouldn't need to be a carbon copy of madness. You would need to continue to perpetuate more of the same in your own community for your own children, and the children are the future. I read a meme today that said, your great-grandmother, your master lied to your great-grandmother. Your great-grandmother lied to your grandmother. Your great-grandmother lied to your grandmother. Your grandmother lied to your mother, and your mother lied to you. I'm not lying to my child. I'm not perpetuating the lies in any form: religion, history, behavioral, societal. I'm not perpetuating lies in my home. Period. In no fashion. I take full responsibility for my behavior, my actions, my thoughts, and my speak. I take full responsibility for my creation energy and my dutiful commitment to my community and my people. I am fully equipped as an animated, fully functional African to stand in my position and do that. And that's what it takes to restructure Africans' well-being and to build into African sovereignty. That needs to happen for every African. That can't be, I got mine, get yours. Yeah, everybody hating on me because I got mine. That can't be the conversation, because that's not what creates African sovereignty. That continues to create dissension and division in your community. And competition where there should be none. Who has the best master? Or I'm at this Fortune 500 company. You at that Fortune 500 company? Girl, I'm over here getting 6 figures at this Fortune 500 company. Because who has the best master? Who's been incentivized to sell their self and soul and to spit on their ancestors' grave? Who? I'm just saying, raise your hand. Raise your hand. And we cannot, in 2021, we cannot say we didn't know. We cannot say that. Because for the past 25 years, information has been readily, high frequency, moving at light speed, available to you to do what you need to do to be responsible. African, life is your birthright. You have a right to life without permission.
Yes, indeed.
You have a right to your life. And your community, they have a right to their life. So unless you have skills that you can then turn and fortify your community with, see, it's taken me time. There's a reason why people get value for having good African counsel from me and sharing communication with me. Just basic communication. Because I've synthesized my skills to support African-centered consciousness. See, most of us have never done that. So I don't even have exchanges when I'm having conversations most of the time. Yeah, I realize I have a lot of energy. I do feel the space. I know. But that's not the point. There's a space for dialogue. And rarely is there dialogue. You know why there's no dialogue? Because you've never thought about how to synthesize your skills, talents, and gifts, and to develop yourself so that you become an asset to African sovereignty. So therefore, this is a space that you have no idea as to what to do. So you have nothing to offer the conversation. So then, yes, you do go to school. And then you sit there. And then you take a little piece of cake. It tastes good. And then you run off. You see African? So that doesn't work. So there's seeds inside the center of the apple. And that apple goes seeds planted into so many other Africans. And you grow more apple trees. Right. That's the point.
Right.
Because we need that critical mass. We're not getting around that critical mass.
Stop trying to look like the apple and be the apple.
Be the apple.
Be the apple. That's what
be
that's
the apple.
Takeaway. Be the apple.
Okay. We're going to do this right now.
Be the apple.
Be the apple. You be the apple.
Absolutely African. So this is Soundbytes on National Radio, y'all. You know how we do. You know, as family coming to meet, and we just, you know, we talking about the thing. We hope you get in tune with us and be the apple, and you know, and chat with us and take away something. We do appreciate when you exchange as well and share your thoughts as well. So by the way, we do appreciate the folks that have joined us this evening. We do appreciate y'all for checking in with us. We know it's, you know, on the later end of things this Monday night, but we appreciate those that came that came through with us. We appreciate y'all. So, and
thank you for our sister for giving in and making a contribution. You know, always you can make a Cash App Soundbytes International Radio. Yes,
Soundbytes Radio is the Cash App.
Soundbytes Radio. SOUNDBYTES RADIO. Cash App Soundbytes Radio, and you'll see our logo up there because you know we fully branded out here in these streets, in these communication messaging streets, right?
Can't be wasting this education now, can we?
Can't be wasting this education.
Well,
we got
fly in the marketing, so
but we put them to work out here for our African sovereignty.
But we do appreciate those that come through with us and receive from us. So we thank you for taking the time with us, especially you, Sister Karen. We definitely appreciate your continued support. Chief Fellow Jonathan Henry, thank you for joining us today as well. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. Brother Naeem, Sister Regina for coming through. Thank you a day. I hope you were able to stay and get some fortification out of today's conversation, some takeaway, and hopefully we can build on future conversations each week here at Soundbytes International Radio, y'all. So you know how we do when we close out with the high energy, with the power of I am, going with the Brother Naeem, Bricks on myself, AJ Throwback. We keep that energy going. So stick tight with us, rock out with us for a little bit as we close out the show. Soundbytes International Radio, y'all. This is I am. So let's get it, fam. More love.
Peace. Come on, get some of this I am, y'all.
This which makes people ask who sent you. I tell them I am. They tell me that's a cute affirmation, but it's not an answer. I reply, listen again. My affirmation is your answer.
This is the power of I am. This is the greatness of I am. Look at the strength that I have. None of the truth can deny that. Hear the proof in the hi-hat. Hey, turn the reflection, I digress. I love me more, never love less. I love me more, never love less. Turn $1,000,000 dreams, yeah, how I manifest it. Look deep inside, yeah, you be the blessing. $1,000,000 dreams, yeah, how I manifest it. Anything I want, yeah, turn up. This is the power of I am. This is the greatness of I am. Look at the strength that I have. None of the truth can deny the power of I am. Handsome chocolate mofo, yeah. Anytime I'm on GoPro, lyrical high home growth. Living spots with a cold so low. Conditions without morale so low. So I pitched it fast, pitch it slow. Till the cows call home, bro. It didn't make sense. I was told as a child I wouldn't be shit. Revenge on my mind, started flipping the script. They fed me lines, started puking that shit. They treated me different, I embraced that shit. You know the ones that be closest to you to be the family ties. Sacred bonds, seeing plenty murder, dirty service, ludicrous, cock up with a dirty burner. But bet I believed in me 1,000%. Bet I achieved what I was saying again. And I couldn't resist. Kill these niggas with their toxicness without a popping pistol monotonous. Told myself I couldn't rock with this. Hanging with goofies couldn't get rich. True blood suckers couldn't see bliss. Couldn't see shit. Kiss the old face. Nigga, you dead wrong. I ain't singing the same song. I'm blessed day long, name all day long. Having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. Fuck nigga, I
It's a
am.
grind. I'm totally surprised that I ain't lost my mind. Had to take setbacks and learn the weak setbacks that those I gave jetpacks that no planes don't fly. Yeah, I'm in no space, so wasting my time. Focus my glow to shift paradigms. My get up and go to keep my folks from dying. So I'm on the road with a goal, let's refine. Yeah, riding with a mean vision. Reflecting from every angle through a clean prism. Doesn't matter, reflecting in technicolor and gray. When I lost my mother, found peace inside my queen, and I laid in my brothers. Yeah, art was shaping up the grand scheme. I don't wrestle to the mat on my damn demons. In a matter of time, became a champion. Now my everyday must to do the damn thing. So my angels pack it up the arena, inspire the future leaders with every line of the levers of God and unbelievers. Do what they can't conceive us, love what we do and leave us. Brick, they never see us. Woo! God damn, I'm feeling good, motherfuck. What they say, I'm doing what they never would. Yeah. Get a grasp on your life, yeah. Payment ain't sacrificial prices. Go to your turn, playing nice, yeah. They're gonna recognize who the nice is. From the north to the southeast, kicking others every lane, share about seats. I'm aligned with it, man, you cannot be. Say anything I want yet.
This is the power of I am. This is the greatness of I am. Look at the strength that I have. None of the truth can deny that. Hear the proof in the hi-hat. Eternal reflection, I digress. I love me more, never love less. I love me more, never love less. Turn $1,000,000 dreams, yeah, how I manifest it. Look deep inside, yeah, you be the blessing. $1,000,000 dreams, yeah, how I manifest it. Anything I want, yeah, turn up. This is the power of I am. This is the greatness of I am. Look at the strength that I have. None of the truth can deny the power of
Man, I ain't
I
talking
am.
in terms of I wish, I want to, or even I will anymore. Only things I proclaim, I do, I have, and I am. I do as my ancestors instruct. I have all I need to affect change, and I am a living magnification of God.